20 I'll be serving in Indianapolis in the Spanish-speaking mission. Now, the last few days I've been busy with mission preparation things, so I've kind of pushed this talk to the very last minute. Usually I like to write an outline and kind of ad-lib things, but 2 a.m. Zachary realized that post 2 a.m. Zachary would probably not have mental capacity to ad-lib anything this morning. So I've written everything down. Let's see how 2 a.m. Zachary actually does at writing. Okay, well, let me first say, it always kind of annoyed me when a meeting would have a theme going, for example, Father's Day, and then some missionary would come along and completely change topics. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Hold that thought, though. I'll come back to you, Dad. Don't worry. As a missionary, one of my jobs will be to share my convictions with the people I encounter. So I will try to pass along the ideas which I find to be of some fundamental importance. Before I proceed, let me actually give you a few seconds. It's kind of an interesting question, so go ahead and consider in your heads what convictions you hold most strongly regarding the gospel or life or anything. So I'll give you a few seconds on it. I suspect many of you thought of things like the Atonement, or the Book of Mormon, or eternal families, principles like that. If you're my friend Trevor, you said, "Thou shalt not kill." It is an interesting question, and this poses a challenge to me as the sort of person who likes to complicate things. That is something I get from my dad. Happy Father's Day, Dad. I graduated with my bachelor's degrees in math and physics, and I've taken about a year of graduate courses in physics. And so I've actually been trained to understand that the things that we tend to be sure about are frequently wrong. I'll give you some simple examples. The Earth is flat. The Earth is the center of the universe. Around the turn of the 20th century, there were those who thought that we pretty much figured out all of the new physics in the world, and that it was just a matter of hammering out the details at that point. And then all of a sudden, Einstein comes up in 1905 with special relativity, which says a lot of wacky things, but among other things it says that if I'm running really, really fast and you're standing still, we'll age at different rates, which is totally weird, but yeah, that's been measured to happen, actually. So we have relativity, we have quantum mechanics, which says that if you go down onto, the atomic level, you can never actually make a measurement with 100% certainty. There's always going to be some kind of probability that you make one measurement or another, which are totally, wacky ideas that nobody's thought of prior to that time. So they illustrate the point that I'm making then. We can have facts, but sometimes we make mistakes, and so I find myself taking the same sort of skeptical approach when it comes to religion. You'll recall that Earth is the center of the universe. That was once seen as an important religious belief to the Catholic Church, and scientists who disagreed were persecuted for that, forced to change their mind. I also recall last year, radio evangelist Harold Camping predicted the end of the world twice. As a church, we've also had our own share of folk beliefs that have been, or one day, will be found to be incorrect or at least misleading. I had an institute teacher last year actually say, this was in a church history class, whatever this was, he said the following. He says, I think offensive to the Spirit is to try to base testimony on things which may never have happened. We find this sentiment echoed in scriptures. For example, in Matthew 7:21, we read, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. James has a similar remark in James 2:19. He says, "Thou believest that there is one God, thou doest well. Devils also believe and tremble." Okay. I interpret these statements in the following way. It is not so much important what we believe, the important thing is what we do with it. As a result, I take the same approach in religion as I do in science. There in science, my convictions are not so much facts, as I said in quotes, because sometimes, facts are not correct. So not so much facts as guiding principles. Okay? Let me explain what I mean in the context of science, first of all, and then I'll try and reformulate the construction I've produced for myself for religion. Okay? So in science, we begin by postulating that some unique universal truth exists. Okay? So, for example, in physics, this means that if gravity points down on Earth, we expect that gravity also points down on Mars or on the Sun or anywhere else. Okay? We expect things to behave the same wherever we are. There's one way that things work and it happens everywhere. Okay? So we postulate that happens. We can't prove that, but it's an assumption that we're taking to start with. And so in order to find this, this unique universal truth, we perform experiments and we make observations and we see all the things that don't work. Okay? We take all the ideas that don't work, we get rid of all of those, and we conclude that whatever's left after we've gotten rid of all the things that don't work must be the correct answer. Okay? This is the principle of what scientists call falsifiability. Okay? For those who like big words. For myself, in religion, I've postulated the following. That is that if God exists, He desires our happiness. Now there are those in the world who would disagree with this, that God perhaps is apathetic or even adversarial. I choose to see it this way, that we have a God who loves us and desires our happiness, because, well, first of all, I see no reason for our existence if there was an antagonistic God or an apathetic God. An apathetic God would have no reason to care one way or the other, and so that's the way I choose to see things. So that is what I would say is conviction number one for me. Okay? If God exists, He desires our happiness. For conviction number two, I would claim that in order to experience happiness, we must experience sorrow and adversity. So we have a sort of duality there. You can't know the good without the bad. In fact, I claim that greater happiness comes through overcoming greater sorrow and greater adversity. It is through overcoming adversity that we learn, that we grow, and that we otherwise progress as individuals. Therefore, to experience eternal happiness, I believe, as I believe God would have us do, we must experience eternal progression. We have to be continually overcoming things, becoming better. This particular guiding principle informs my interpretation of the nature of commandments and sin and such things. The things which we are commanded to do, I tend to see, are the things which strengthen us as individuals, and they strengthen us as we overcome the challenges of our fallen, natural man state. And those things which are considered sins are the things which distract us from our progression. They're the things which, prevent us from facing our problems head on, okay? Or, distract us entirely, completely take us in another direction. Okay? So that's conviction number two. Essentially, to achieve eternal happiness, we have to progress eternally. We have to be constantly overcoming things. Okay. Thirdly, I'm convinced that our progression as individuals is strongly dependent on the progression of others. And by this I mean two things. I refer both to charity, brotherly, universal love, doing good for mankind and such. But I also refer to eternal families. So as I say, I'm convinced that our progression as individuals depends strongly on our progression of others. This is something I also get from my dad. So, thank you, Dad. charity is easy enough to see as a desirable guiding principle. While exact interpretations of what constitutes love and charity varies from person to person or from culture to culture, I would say it's safe to say virtually every person in the world feels some sort of obligation to do good to the people around them. This tendency towards niceness could be an evolutionary or social adaptation to help us when we form societies. A productive society is one that doesn't try to tear each other apart. But really, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's important what it does. It's still useful to our progression because it enables us to, we form societies, and in societies, we can pick up the slack when other people need help. And the understanding there is that we can help them when they need help, and together we can overcome obstacles that will be much more formidable as individuals. Focus ourselves when we need to, focus on others when they need us to. But as I said, I think there's more to it than just this. I don't think it's strictly just charity that affects our progression or salvation. I think our progression depends on the family. I have a picture here I've drawn before, and I showed this in my Seals War once upon a time. Think of this as sort of like a family tree, okay? So maybe this is me right there, and so this would be like my dad and his other kids. This would be my grandpa or something like that. The main branch that connects it all, that could be God the Father. This picture, as I redrew it, it appeared in the Millennial Star in like 1847, but I believe it was originally drawn by Joseph Smith to kind of explain the idea of the sealing power. So let me talk about that for a second. Presumably Joseph Smith taught that as individuals progress and attain glory, and as these links are forged through the sealing power, that glory that I achieve here gets passed upwards to my father, to my grandfather, and such things. That's not too hard to imagine. If I do well in school, it looks good for my dad. My success is his success, and so on upwards. So the idea basically makes sense, but I think it's a very profound idea, actually, that this glory is spread upwards through the sealing power. Now, for some reason, I felt this idea kind of resonate with me when I first heard it. It's because it gives structure to so many of the teachings that we have. Eternal families, of course, fit right in. It's easy to see. The promise made to Abraham that he would have seed as the sands of the sea or whatever it was, the stars of the sky. That makes sense, Why would you want to have a lot of kids? Well, okay. But it makes sense if they're all their glory is filtering upwards. The emphasis our church places on sexual sins becomes clear when it is understood that they undermine, the nature, the family nature of this structure. And while I don't like the idea of polygamy, you can even see how that would sort of fit in, connecting branches together. Okay, I had this appreciation for the sealing power reaffirmed to me actually just yesterday. My parents and I were in the Salt Lake Temple. We did a number of sealings, proxy sealings, and it was a good experience. I found myself annoyed at a number of parts during the endowment ceremony, some of the way things were, but we went to do sealings, and I wasn't annoyed. I felt a spirit of peace and calm and love and just general rightness when we were performing those proxy sealings. This is actually not the only experience I've had with the sealing power that I would consider a spiritually meaningful experience. One of my first spiritually meaningful experiences actually took place in the sealing room of the Draper Temple when they were doing the open house. This was a few years ago. This was, I'd say I was about 20, 21 at the time. So clearly I did not leave on my mission then. At the time I was feeling very antagonistic, very hostile toward the church. And I went to the open house hoping that if that church was something I was supposed to do, that perhaps I would feel something. And it was in that stillling room that I feel like it really did. That was sort of an important moment for me as I consider my life. So, let me close by just restating those convictions, just explicitly putting them all out there. I feel that there's a place to be happy. I feel that in order to do so, we must seek to progress by overcoming obstacles. We shouldn't shy away from things that are difficult. We should, I don't want to say embrace them, but we should take them for what they are. And as we do so, we should not focus strictly on ourselves. We should remember those around us. Remember our families, remember our friends or neighbors, the people we don't know. And just have a general feeling of goodwill to all those we come in contact with. I present these to you as a testimony. I present these to you with a testimony that I found these convictions meaningful to me. These are what I try and think about all the time. These are how I base my decisions, and I'd say it's turned out pretty well so far. For this, I close. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.